Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the hollow Earth theory, fringe science, or a cover-up of what's below. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 1692, Edmond Halley, the astronomer who identified the comet that bears his name, proposed to the Royal Society that the Earth was hollow, consisting of concentric spheres with a small luminous inner sun at the core. This was not a joke. It was presented as a serious scientific hypothesis to explain anomalies in compass readings. For the next 2 centuries, serious scientists and naval officers debated whether the Earth's interior might contain habitable spaces. Today, the theory is classified as pseudoscience, but the question it raises is worth sitting with for a moment. What do we actually know, directly and empirically, about what lies 400 kilometers beneath our feet? No drill has gone deeper than 12 kilometers. Everything we know about the Earth's interior comes from indirect evidence, from the behavior of waves generated by earthquakes. The model is extraordinarily well developed and almost certainly correct. But how certain is almost certainly? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the landscape of modern documented mysteries, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The 20th and 21st centuries were supposed to be the age of answers. Science had decoded DNA, split the atom, put humans on the moon, and mapped the genome. By the logic of accelerating discovery, every mystery should be converging toward explanation. And yet the ledger of genuinely unexplained phenomena, events witnessed by credible observers, investigated by serious researchers, and still lacking a satisfying account, has not shrunk. If anything, it has grown. Part of this is a failure of classification. Phenomena that do not fit established categories tend to be dismissed rather than investigated, filed under anecdotal or mass hysteria, and removed from serious consideration. This is not always wrong. Genuine hoaxes and misperceptions account for a large portion of anomalous reports. But the dismissal is sometimes premature, and the cost is real. Cases that might have yielded genuine insight are closed before they are fully examined. Witnesses are discredited. Evidence is lost. The question is never properly asked. The cases that endure, that survive rigorous scrutiny, and still refuse to yield to conventional explanation are a small but significant set. They share certain characteristics: multiple independent witnesses, physical evidence consistent with witness testimony, and a complete absence of any plausible prosaic explanation that accounts for all the data. These are not ghost stories. They are open problems in empirical science, waiting for someone with the right tools and the intellectual courage to take them seriously. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the hollow Earth theory, fringe science, or a cover-up of what's below, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. Edmond Halley published his hollow Earth model in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society in 1692. He proposed that the Earth consisted of a hollow shell approximately 800 kilometers thick, enclosing concentric inner spheres roughly the size of Venus, Mars, and Mercury, each rotating at different rates, and each potentially harboring their own atmospheres. A small luminous nucleus at the center, he suggested, provided light to any inhabitants of the inner spheres. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly, it is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered John Cleves Sims Jr., an American Army officer and veteran of the War of 1812, petitioned the United States Congress in 1818 to fund an Arctic expedition to locate polar openings he believed gave access to the Earth's interior. He sent his petition to every head of state, university, and learned society he could identify. Congress did not fund the expedition. Sims spent the remainder of his life lecturing and writing about what he called Sims's hole. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine Jules Verne's novel Journey to the Center of the Earth, published in 1864, popularized the hollow Earth concept for mass audiences and established many of the narrative tropes that persist in popular culture. Verne's scientifically literate fiction was read by millions and shaped public intuition about underground worlds. The book remains in print, and its core premise of a subterranean realm reached through volcanic shafts continues to influence fiction and fringe theory. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, modern seismology has produced a comprehensive and internally consistent model of the Earth's interior derived from the analysis of earthquake waves. Primary waves travel through both solid and liquid material. Secondary waves travel only through solids. The absence of secondary waves in the outer core proves it is liquid. The reflection patterns of waves at the inner core boundary prove it is solid. No hollow space of any significant size could exist without producing detectable anomalies in these wave patterns. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the Soviet Kola superdeep borehole, the deepest artificial point on Earth, reached 26 kilometers before being abandoned in 1994 due to temperatures exceeding 300 degrees Celsius, far higher than predicted. The project found that rock at depth behaved very differently from surface predictions. It was fractured, water-saturated, and geologically complex. No hollow spaces were found, but the project demonstrated that the Earth's interior contains genuine surprises even within the range accessible to direct drilling. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: gravity measurements taken across the Earth's surface are consistent only with a planet that has a dense metallic core. The Earth's average density is 5 grams per cubic centimeter, while surface rock averages 2 7 grams per cubic centimeter. This discrepancy requires a core denser than any surface rock, consistent with iron-nickel at extreme compression. A hollow Earth would have a far lower average density, measurably inconsistent with observed gravitational behavior and orbital mechanics as understood since Newton. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the hollow Earth theory, fringe science, or a cover-up of what's below. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation, proposed by researchers, holds that Edmond Halley's 1692 concentric sphere model was the first scientifically framed hollow Earth hypothesis, and proposed that inner spheres might be inhabited and independently lit. It is now a historical curiosity, superseded entirely by seismological data, but it represents a genuine attempt by a major scientist to explain real observational anomalies, specifically the irregular behavior of compass needles, using the theoretical tools available in the late 17th century. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that hollow Earth as a government cover-up, the claim that world governments know the interior is inhabited and suppress the evidence, is a fringe position with no evidentiary basis. Its most persistent modern variant involves alleged Nazi expeditions to Antarctica in the 1930 and 1940 to locate polar entrances, claims for which no credible documentation exists. The theory survives because it is structurally unfalsifiable. Any disconfirming evidence is itself reframed as part of the cover-up. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the Agartha hypothesis, derived from theosophical tradition and popularized by writers including Alexander Saint-Yves Dalvadeur in the 19th century, proposes a vast underground civilization of spiritually advanced beings. This concept has no scientific grounding, but has been enormously influential in esoteric and New Age traditions, appearing in the works of Helena Blavatsky and subsequent theosophical literature, and providing a spiritual alternative to the physical hollow Earth models of Halley and Sims. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the hollow Earth theory, fringe science, or a cover-up of what's below, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes seismological data provides the most direct evidence about the Earth's interior available to science. Thousands of seismic stations worldwide record earthquake waves continuously, and the travel times, amplitudes, and wave types received at each station are exquisitely sensitive to the material they have passed through. The resulting model, solid mantle, liquid outer core, solid inner core, has been confirmed by independent analyses from dozens of research groups and is inconsistent with any hollow space of significant volume. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented. Polar exploration has definitively ruled out the existence of openings at either pole. The Arctic has been thoroughly surveyed by submarine, aircraft, satellite, and surface traverse. It is an ocean covered by sea ice with no opening. Antarctica has been mapped to sub-meter resolution by satellite radar and has been crossed repeatedly over land. No polar entrance of any kind exists, and the logistical and observational record of polar exploration is far too extensive and independently verified to conceal one. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the Kola superdeep borehole's temperature findings, 300 degrees Celsius at only 12 kilometers depth, confirm that the Earth's geothermal gradient makes habitable conditions impossible far below the surface. If temperature increases at even a fraction of that rate through the mantle, the interior is at thousands of degrees. Seismic evidence of a liquid outer core is consistent with iron at temperatures of approximately 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Celsius, rendering the hollow Earth hypothesis physically untenable. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the hollow Earth theory, fringe science, or a cover-up of what's below. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. Hollow Earth has zero scientific credibility. The seismological evidence is definitive, comprehensive, and confirmed by independent researchers across more than a century. The theory survives exclusively in science fiction, conspiracy communities, and certain esoteric traditions. Yet the Earth's interior continues to produce genuine surprises. Deep Earth biology, endolithic organisms living kilometers underground in solid rock, is a real and growing field. Discovery of subglacial lakes adds legitimate mystery to what lies beneath ice. The mantle contains more water than all the surface oceans combined. The real interior of the Earth, properly understood, is strange enough to require no embellishment. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the hollow Earth theory, fringe science, or a cover-up of what's below. From the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of hollow Earth ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.